would you like to introduce yourself to my audience?
Yeah, of course. So my name's George. I run the YouTube channel. It's called George Martin Carnism Debunked. Also run the Carnism Debunked website. I've been a vegan for must be like 11, 12 years now, an animal rights activist for most of those years. And I'm mainly active on social media and stuff like that, putting out a lot of content to attempt to convince people of the arguments for animal rights, I guess.
Excellent. I'm EB3, Debunk Me Bro YouTuber, pretty much since the start of YouTube. I've been around a long time. I've debated a lot of vegans, and recently George's channel has come onto my feed as I'm trying to leave Google and YouTube. And I'm like, wow, he seems lively. I reached out to him, he reached back, and here we are. So I've debated a long line of vegans over the last 20 years. And obviously, I've just watched your antenatal video, yeah. So obviously, you know firsthand, there's many different variations of vegans all believe different things, right? Yeah. So, like, give me your philosophical, moral position. I take it from what I've listened to thus far, you're like you sort of adopted a utilitarianism approach. You utilitarian? Utilitarian?
I don't actually know what my normative ethics are at the moment. That is something that I'm going to have to look more into. So I don't specifically describe myself as utilitarian deontology. I imagine from the tiny bit of philosophical knowledge that I do have, I might be a threshold deontologist, but I'm not fully sure about that. So that's still something I guess I'm trying to explore. I'm fairly new to the philosophy game.
Okay, fine. So, why are you vegan?
Do you want the philosophical answer, or do you want just the story of how I went vegan and why?
Like, in your core, why have you chosen this dietary, this diet?
Mm-hmm.
What is it what compelled you to be a supposed vegan? Explain that to me, and then I will know your philosophical position, and I'll
Oh, I
know.
see. Yeah, I just reject the idea that animals should be slaves for humans. I don't think there is any way to humanely kill someone who doesn't want to die. And I value animals as sentient beings who value their own lives and don't want to suffer in the same way that we don't want to suffer. And I see no moral justification, I guess, to pay for their enslavement, abuse, murder in what's happening when we can just be vegan.
Okay, and do you vote? Are you a voter? Have you ever voted?
I did 1 year. I voted for my mum when she ran in the local elections 1 year. But apart from that, no, there's none of the UK parties really massively aligned with my views.
Okay, so you've never voted apart from that once with your mum.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Do you believe in God, or are you a God-fearing man? Right.
No, atheist.
When you use the word justification, what's your definition of that? What does that mean to you, justification? Because to me, the word justified etymologically means glorious in the eyes of God. Right. Yeah, I don't know any other meaning in that. So if you're not a God-fearing man, what does justified mean in your standing?
Well, it's hard to exactly describe what that means either way, whether you believe in God or whether you don't, because ultimately, in either case, the other person's just going to disagree and say, well, if you ask me, I'd just say it's from the victim's standpoint. The victim doesn't want it to be done to them, and they should be the moral authority and that over any supernatural being, obviously, in my opinion.
Okay. Do you know that it's impossible scientifically to wash a piece of fruit or vegetable or clapping your hands without killing tens and thousands and hundreds of thousands of microorganisms?
Yeah, but
scientifically.
Yeah, obviously they have no moral value because they're not sentient beings.
Oh, they're not what?
Sentient beings.
And you know that how?
Through science. They don't have a brain or a central nervous system. Like that would be a. Do you not think you're trivializing actual suffering and death there when you mention stuff about microorganisms? Like if I was to compare, 9/11 to washing my hands or something, that would obviously be a bit of a trivialization of what happened, right?
Depends on point of view. Like if you've invoked science, you're looking at it scientifically, right? Yeah. So if you was to beam out of Earth and look at the cosmos and the galaxy, all life on Earth is a microorganism in compared to the rest of the galaxy. Do you agree?
Well, it depends what. It still has moral value, so I don't. That just seems like an apples and oranges comparison there. If you're talking about life on Earth, that it doesn't matter how small it is in comparison to the galaxy. The sentient life on it still values their existence and suffers and feels pain.
Yes, but there are other forms of life that you are less caring of because you can't hear them scream, and as far as you're aware, have no sentience.
Well, yeah, it's the difference between punching an old lady in the face and punching a punching bag at the gym.
Yeah, but
what
makes you think? But what makes you think the rest of the galaxy as a whole cares about your moral values on an individual basis?
Oh, it's not about whether they care about it. It's
right
not
then,
about
so you agree the universe doesn't care that you have some moral system as a microorganism. Right?
Yeah, it doesn't care about yours either.
I'm not saying it does.
All right.
Right, yeah?
But look, I think we'll get sidetracked into some crazy theological discussion if we go into this. So let me advance the argument for animal rights from a theory neutral standpoint, and as in
you don't vote. You don't agree with
what rights. What does that have to do with?
Because rights are a legal aspect of life, right? Yeah.
But, but if there was
conjured up by the legislators,
yeah.
No, rights are a concept of the mind that are agreed to by that are written up by legislators, right?
Okay,
yeah. And you're not a voter.
If there was a party in the UK that aligned with my principles, I'd vote for them, but there currently isn't.
But even if there was, right? Yeah. Listen, I've debated many vegans who are voters. The majority, 90% of all the vegans I've ever debated are voters. And most of them are utilitarians as well. And they give me the argument that if I buy a chicken at the retail level, then I'm telling the chicken people at a production level through to go and kill more chickens. Yeah, but that's not logically coherent, is it? Because the meat industries and or the slaughterhouses, right? Yeah, and the farming industries are granted their permits by the government, which are legitimized by the voters that vote for them, right? Yeah. Whether you have
which is why I don't vote, because all those parties support the wholesale exploitation and slavery of animals.
And where do animals get their rights from if not through a derivative power like government?
Well, they can't actually at the moment be granted those legal rights. So that's my job as an animal rights activist. That's what I'm pushing for. They have to be granted. So,
and how are you doing that? How are you pushing for that?
Well, through advocacy and activism, the same as any injustice in history, the same as abolition of slavery, for example.
You mean like by what you're doing now, debating people like me online and stuff like that and whatnot?
Yeah, sure. So at the time of slavery, if we had the internet, I would be online demanding an end to slavery against people who supported it.
Slavery still exists today.
I know it does. I'm an animal rights activist.
Right.
But look, hold on. Let's just. This is just going to be very messy and cluttered if we do it this way. So let me advance animal rights from something that hopefully will fit in with your own moral system. So we'll do the whole name the trait thing, if you know about that.
Yeah. Feel free to say what you need to say, so I can respond.
All right. Awesome. So I would like, I guess, to convince you that the argument for animal rights is valid from your own normative ethic, whatever it is. So I guess I'll ask you the whole name the trait question, right? So I basically hold it that there's no morally relevant difference between humans and animals that would justify killing one but not the other. So, and I believe that you could answer this question consistently, but the vast majority of people that you ask this question will have an inconsistent position. And this is just what I'm trying to advance. I believe that humans are extremely inconsistent with their position on humans in comparison to what they are to animals. So I guess my question to you would be, well, first of all, if if we were to round up and start gassing and slitting the throats of humans for burgers, for shoes, for handbags, would you support that?
I'm not a killer. I've not killed any of these animals at a production level, right? Well, I've just listened to your antenatal thing, right? Yeah, and you use the word "we do this, we do that" a lot. So you're a collectivist. You've got a collectivist mind, right? Yeah, where you look at all the endeavors of mankind as sort of like the responsibility of everyone on Earth, right? Yeah. Whereas then you try and invoke like animal rights and legality. Right, yeah, but in law, under the legal system, in the English tongue being spoken that me and you are exchanging words in right now, I, as an individual, I'm only responsible for my actions, not the actions of other people. If someone kills a chicken, right, yeah, because the voters allow them to do it, right, yeah, I'm not going to allow that animal to die in vain, so I'm going to eat that chicken, for example.
But
right?
you obviously understand the concept of supply and demand, right? So
yes, at a production level, the supply and demand argument doesn't apply to me at a retail level.
Of course it does. You're demanding for the animals to be killed and put on the shelves.
Well, let me defeat your argument then, right? Yeah. Supply and demand, right? Yeah. You're invoking, you're trying to claim that at a retail level, if I buy a chicken pie, I'm telling the chicken companies at some production level to kill more chickens. That's your argument, right? In a nutshell. Right. So at a retail level, you're invoking a legality called legal tender, right? Yeah, I'm purchasing something legally in accordance with the English laws and that govern this island, right? Yeah, govern the science behind all of the chicken pie with all the ingredients and everything that's on there, right? Yeah. So with my legal tender, I purchase this chicken and I get my change for it, whatnot. It's an exchange of goods, and I'll go home. I'm happy with it. If at a production level they take these calculations on board, right, yeah, and think, well, we're gonna double these amount of chicken pies because they're popular and people are buying them, so we're gonna kill twice as much chickens, right? Yeah, that wager, that supply and demand argument is on a production level, and that's a wager between them and the government. If say they kill all these chickens and nobody buys them, the government comes in and seizes their assets if they can't pay the taxes. They don't come for me at a retail level.
All right.
One more. 30 seconds.
All right, go
10
on,
more
go
seconds.
on,
10 more
go
seconds,
on,
please.
Go on.
Because you invoked as a vegan a legality at a retail level, which is legal tender purchasing something, right? Yeah. Let's look to the law. Let's look to the legal aspects of life. Am I, as an individual, legally responsible for the actions of others in law, criminally or otherwise? And the answer to that is, before you interrupt, because I know you don't like this answer, is no. The reason why I'm trying to talk to you is, without being interrupted, and I won't interrupt you, is because every other vegan I've ever debated on this earth, right, yeah, can't handle these arguments. They invoke supply and demand, and then I tell them that you've invoked a legality, and I'm not legally responsible for the actions of others. And then their argument's crippled, and then they want to move on to some other subject. Can you address my point? Am I legally responsible for the actions of others?
You're legally responsible for your own actions. Anyway, right. Do you agree? Would you agree with rounding up and gassing and slitting the throats of humans for burgers and pizzas?
I'm not a killer, so I wouldn't agree with that.
Okay, cool. So you have the same answer as most people with that. Okay. Do you agree with rounding up, gassing, slitting the throats of chickens, cows, and pigs to turn them into burgers, pizzas, and so on?
I don't agree with it, no. But if you're going to do it, I'll eat them after you've done it. Why not?
So principally you're a vegan, but you're like you just believe there's a disconnection from the supply chain.
I use this argument against utilitarians. I say, under the blanket of utilitarianism, I'm more of a vegan than you, as a vegan who votes, and I eat meat according to their own philosophy.
So you reject animal slavery. You don't believe animals should be oppressed.
I don't agree with the slaughterhouses or anything like that, right? Yeah. However, I'm not the one giving them the permits and granting them permission to do it. And whether it be a slaughterhouse or you, as an individual, that kills an animal in front of me, like a chicken, for example, and just leaves it, I'm going to eat it. I'm not going to allow it to die in vain, right? Yeah. Nevertheless, if no one was doing that, I'd probably go out and hunt my own pheasants or something. Yeah, because I'm an Englishman. This is my land, and pheasants go well with other vegetables, and I can forage and hunt my own food. Right now, I don't need to rely on the state. And that's another argument with the vegan diet, right? Yeah, a vegan diet. You say you're not a voter, but as a vegan, a strict vegan diet, according to PhD doctors, right? Yeah, is a killer diet without supplements from the state. So you rely on the state, the vitamin supplements, which is an offshoot of the pharmaceutical company, in order to keep you alive. So look, there's man, and then there's government, which is a concept of man, which has agents to represent it. And then they create policies which allows vitamin companies to create their products, which keeps you vegans alive. So a diet that you have to adhere to, right? Yeah, makes you subordinate, right? Yeah, to concepts of man that are 4 times removed from the principle.
But this is the
Right,
same
yeah.
as any. We're all reliant on the system somehow to get our nutrients, aren't we?
No, I'm not reliant on government for anything at
Of
all.
course you are. You'd
No, I'm
starve
not.
to death just like every other mass
Why?
starvation in history.
I know how to forage my own
Okay.
edibles and hunt my own food.
That's what every African says. That's what everyone in the Great Leap Forward said.
I'm not lying to you. I'd only be lying to
Okay.
myself. I don't need to
Yep.
lie to anyone. You have no power
Okay.
over me to lie to you.
Yeah.
I can hunt. I can show you the books now that teaches you all about wild edibles in England.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I can hunt and forage my own food. I don't rely on the state. I don't mind using it as a convenience, but I don't rely on it. I don't need it. I have my own life skills.
Okay. But you would be absolutely fucked without any kind of modern technology. Face it. Like
No.
you wouldn't know how to fashion clothes. You wouldn't have. You would find it very hard to survive. You're completely reliant on the rest of society.
No.
So you think you'd invent all this stuff?
What you want about? It's already been invented. I don't rely on it.
The question I asked you is if you'd be
if the government shut down tomorrow, I can hunt and forage my own wild edibles, right? Yeah, and food. I'm not reliant on the government for anything whatsoever. I've already got clothes. And let's jump onto the other scientific argument. Did you know the scientific community abuses roughly 200 million animals per year? And every time you use devices like this that you're communicating to me on now, you're telling the scientific community to go and abuse more animals, no differently to the supply and demand argument you tried to give me.
Well, we can't compare the whole micro parts in technology as a result of there being a global mass atrocity to actually directly funding that. Although you don't seem to, you believe that there seems to be some kind of disconnection there. But I'm still not convinced on your point that you don't. That you say you don't agree with slaughterhouses, but then it seems you do agree with killing animals for nutrition.
What you want about? I don't agree with slaughterhouses. It's not I'm not responsible for the actions of others, but I don't mind killing an animal if I'm hungry.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's go on that then. Okay, and would you agree with killing a human if you were hungry?
If needs be, if needs be, right? Yeah, but no, that would be murder. Logically, right? Yeah, I don't mind eating someone that's died in a survival type scenario, like on a boat or in a desert island or something of that nature. If someone died naturally, that's one thing, but killing another man or woman or child in order to sustain my own life, that's murder, premeditated.
Okay, okay. So I guess the question I'd ask you is, what is it that's true of, say, a deer or a pheasant that, if true of a human, would cause you to say it was justified to shoot that human and eat them?
Well, you invoked animal rights. I don't know of any animal that invokes them themselves. Right? Yeah, rights are a concept of man. Right? Yeah, that give people legal protections. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
If an animal can tell me not to kill it because it doesn't want me to, then I'll probably be inclined not to.
So let's say there was a human who couldn't tell you not to kill them. Would you think it was okay to kill them?
I don't eat humans or man.
Yeah.
I don't. Listen.
I know, because you believe it's murder, right? You believe it would be wrong.
No, in the code of conduct of man, the English tongue you and I are communicating in, it's classified as murder, premeditated murder.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. But killing an animal to sustain yourself, right? Yeah, isn't mankind has dominion over the animals.
And you agree with that, right? You agree that we have dominion over animals, and it shouldn't be murder to kill them.
It's a factor at play, whether I agree with it or not. Mankind has dominion over animals because of the consciousness and sentience you've alluded to.
But I'm talking here about your own moral system. I'm trying to convince you of the arguments for animal rights from your own moral system here. So yes, I know these things are happening, just like rape is happening, and we don't agree with rape, but I'm talking, but from what I gather, you do agree that it's okay to kill animals for food. You do not agree that it's okay to kill humans for food.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm just trying to whistle it down to see what the morally relevant trait difference is between those two beings. So I'm just going to re-ask you again. What is it that's true of animals that, if true of humans, would cause you to say it was okay to round up and gas and stab and shoot humans for a burger?
What is it that's true of animals that is
Yes.
true of humans?
That
I don't
if
know
true.
what. Listen. I don't adhere to some of these terminologies you using.
Sure,
Right now.
sure.
I don't know what a human is.
All
There's
right, I
no
can
such
refer.
word in my holy scripture. Right there. There's man, women, and man, woman, and child. There's men, women, and children. Right
Okay,
there.
we'll do children then. That's
Humans.
fine.
Right?
All right, let's do children then. That's fine. Okay.
Right.
You would obviously agree, just like most sane, rational people, that killing children for food would be wrong.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Right. So, what is it that's true of animals that, if true of a child, would make it justified to kill that child for food?
Nothing.
The thing is, it has to be something, because there has to be a certain set of traits about animals that's making you say that it's okay to kill them. So the reason
mankind, according to the scripture, all right, yeah.
Okay.
According to the scripture, mankind has dominion over animals. New insects and creatures and bacteria and whatnot are discovered every day and named.
Yeah.
Mankind and if there was a predator to man out there, like, they'd have dominion over mankind, right? Yeah. Do you shed a tear, morally or otherwise, every time you see a zebra being killed by a tiger or lion?
It does upset me when I see wild animals suffering. Yeah, I don't like it.
Well, regardless of whether you like it or not, it's justified. You're the one using the word justification. The fact that the lion hunts down the zebra is perfectly justified on this earth, in the universe, under God, however you wish to describe it. It's justified.
Okay, so it's all right. So you're invoking the whole religious argument. Okay.
No. You invoked it.
Yes.
You invoked it.
No, you did.
Invoked it.
No, you did.
You invoked it by using the word justified. You didn't know the word. You used the word justification, and you didn't know the word. You didn't know the etymological meaning of the word.
No, we're going by your moral system here. I'm going to convince you that you either have an inconsistent moral position on humans and animals, or that you could have a consistent position on it. Maybe you do have a consistent position. We're going to find that out. Okay. So if the Bible granted us dominion over children and said that we can kill them for food, would it be okay to enslave children?
It does say that in a roundabout way. It does say that in a roundabout way. It says, the Holy Scripture says, mankind can use anything from seed, and you and I come from seed.
So you do agree that we can?
No, I agree. No, I agree. Cannibalism exists.
I'm not asking you if it exists.
It's not my palate.
This isn't all right. We both disagree.
Right, listen.
It's not your palate.
Listen. Yeah, you.
Okay, so if children,
it's like beauty. It's like beauty.
Okay.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Right. Yeah. Right. What you find beautiful, I might not find beautiful, and vice versa. What you like to eat, I might not like to eat, and vice versa. Right. Yeah. Some people like to eat other human beings or mankind or whatever word that you wish to describe, right? Yeah.
And is that justified in your worldview that they do?
It's just, yeah, it's perfectly. Cannibalism is justified, right? Yeah. But in the English tongue, it's a crime, illegal. It's illegal.
Okay, but you don't agree with the British law on it. You think it's morally acceptable to kill children for food?
No, I didn't say that. I agree with the law.
You do agree with the law. Okay. So you don't agree that it's okay to kill children for food. So I'm asking you now.
No, but the scripture says mankind can use anything from seed. So it's a choice, isn't it? You have a choice to be a cannibal.
And do you have a choice
to be you have a choice to be a cannibal, whether regardless of any laws of man. Do you understand that?
Yeah. Do you agree with the scripture when it says? So you do think it's morally justified to?
Are you monetized on YouTube?
Yeah.
Right, so you signed a contract with Google and YouTube, right? Yeah, they are using you and you using them. Man can use anything from seed. You're just not being used for food, or perhaps you are. I don't know, in a spiritual sense, but you're being used, and you are using other men, right? Yeah, and other men are using you. You're being used, just like it says in the Holy Scripture. So I don't see any difference to eating a chicken than Google paying you your wages. There's no different, man.
Yeah.
And
okay,
like,
but what I want to get here is if there's a morally relevant trait difference between humans, between animals and children that justifies enslaving and murdering one but not the other. I don't think there is one. I'm trying to find out if you think there is one.
yeah, you said justification, and we're on about killing, right? There's a difference between killing and eating. I wouldn't kill another individual, man, woman, or child to eat. However, on a desert island type sort of scenario, survival thing, if one of them died, we'd all put them on a fire and eat them, all of us, because starvation will do strange things to an individual, including you. Don't think you're immune to this. Don't think your moral stances would outweigh starvation, because it wouldn't. Like, if you know anything about mankind, right? Yeah, you know what your limits are, and starvation isn't one of them. It will do strange things to you. So
Yeah.
during starvation, right? Yeah, it's perfectly acceptable. But killing another man, woman, or child to purposely eat, I don't agree with that. However, like using man, woman, and child to your own ends in order to put meat on the table, right? Yeah, is being done to you right now just by signing a simple cash monetary system contract with Google.
Yeah,
right? You're putting meat. You right. Listen, regardless of people giving birth to other people and stuff like that, you're putting meat. You're killing animals and putting that meat on other people's plates by being monetized on YouTube.
Again, this would devolve into a very long-winded and very boring conversation about directness of harm with like living in a society that pays this or that. But right now,
I don't live in a
hold on.
society.
Right. I'm trying to. I need you to be more linear and clear now, because we're trying to figure out if you have a consistent position between killing children and killing animals for food, and the conversation's going a bit all over the place. And I don't want to gish Gallop a load. I don't want to gish Gallop.
Why are you comparing a child to an animal in the first place? That's just weird to me.
No, with the idea of name the trait is that you compare two different objects and you trait equalize them to see if you have a different position.
And so I'm asking why are you comparing these two different things? Like, why are you comparing a child to a chicken?
Because I'm trying to show you that from your own moral system, you potentially have an inconsistent position in not being vegan.
Why? If a chicken could speak English and say, we want rights, don't kill us, right? Yeah.
So is that the trait?
You'd have a logical argument. Yeah, a code of conduct, right? Yeah. You keep invoking the word sentience and consciousness, right? Yeah, and suffering, but you have never witnessed these claims coming from another animal in any verbal context, in any code of conduct that you can decipher to me right now.
Yeah, right. That's why I don't believe speech is a morally relevant trait. But I take it that you do.
I believe every single thing mankind has ever done, will do, and will do in the future is perfectly natural, no different to the lion hunting a zebra or the zebra eating grass.
Right, but something being natural doesn't make it justified, though. I'm sure we can. So anything men do is natural, that makes it okay.
Well, in the eyes of God, absolutely.
So child porn is okay.
Only a paedophile would call it indecent images of children porn in the first place. It's not porn to a law-abiding, civilized individual. It's only porn to the paedophile. Porn is a legitimate aspect of life, right? Yeah, that is adult entertainment for consenting adults. And
but rape of rape of children. Right, let's call it rape of children.
I never called it that. You did. So.
Well, the rape of, it's not.
You wouldn't be here today. You wouldn't be here today. Yes, it is. You.
What?
You turning your back on God and becoming evil and letting all the evil in to control you and doing evil, monstrous act is justified in the eyes of God. That's what's written in the scripture. You are free to do that, to turn your back on God and let all the evil in and commit evil acts. And you doing that and being solely responsible for all the evil you do in this world and let in is justified, glorious in the eyes of God, because no one else did it to you. You did it to yourself. And having that choice, that freedom to be a righteous individual or an evil individual, right? Yeah. It was granted to you, and whichever way you turn is justified in the eyes of God. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a choice given to you in the first place.
Oh, so anything's justified in your worldview?
But it doesn't make it righteous just because it's justified.
What the hell does that mean?
Right, raping children isn't a righteous act,
but it's justified.
How could it be otherwise? It's happening. God will send great evils upon those who deserve it, right? Yeah, and whatever's
children
going on,
deserve it.
whatever's going on in life, right? Yeah. But how do you know they didn't rape someone in a previous life or rape children in a previous life and they are suffering the consequences of their own actions? Right. Yeah.
Dude, come on. Now we're going into cuckoo land.
Why? It's spirituality. Have you ever, you say you got a wife. Do you love her?
Of course.
Oh, so can you prove love to me? Or is it a spiritual aspect of life? Or are we entering into cuckoo land? Do you know what I mean? Yeah, you can't prove love.
What?
You can't prove any. Can you prove love to me? Can you prove your love to your wife to me now, or anyone else?
We can actually prove in the brain.
Or is it? Or is it? No, you can't. Or is it a spiritual aspect of life?
No, there's like we have chemical hormones or whatever released, like oxytocin and all this kind of stuff when we're in love.
The brain and the mind are nowhere synonymous scientifically. Did you not know that?
But look, we're massively meandering now from the topic. My aim here was to come on and to try to convince you of
my aim. You might have that might have been your aim, but my aim was, and this is how I approached you, and we can go back to the principal start of everything, right? Yeah, I approached you saying I've never lost a debate versus a vegan ever in my entire life.
Okay,
and all you're trying to do, all you're trying to do, name the traits, right? Yeah, I've named you the trait. Can any of these sentient beings that you proclaim to care about, that are not man, woman, or child, right? Yeah, script a code of conduct between them and their own kind that I can decipher and interpret for myself, and look at their rules and look at their laws between their own species. If they can't, then they're not on par with mine and who I am, right? Yeah, and whatever the fuck I am on this earth.
Okay,
that's and no different. Listen to me, no different to the lion and zebra, right? Yeah, I won't eat any other animal, no different to the lion and zebra, and or insects or whatever plant or vegetable.
So that's the trait, yeah. The having a code of conduct.
Well, can you? What's your argument against it?
Okay, the argument is this: if there was a human, a child, who could not formulate a code of conduct, would it be justified on your moral worldview to slit their throat and eat them?
A code of conduct is already written on behalf of child, woman, and man. It doesn't need to.
The trait, what I asked was, the traits I'm on about. True of animals that if true of a human would justify killing that human. So that's the trait you're naming, and now you're getting right.
Your argument doesn't hold water.
Yeah, no. This is your argument. It's not my argument. It's yours.
I'm telling you why your argument doesn't hold water.
I'm telling you, it's your argument that doesn't hold it. Your argument doesn't hold it.
That has applied to them before they're even born, right? Yeah. Well, so any code of conduct of any animal that you're alluding to would have a code of conduct for them before they were born that I could go and reference. They do not have one. So there's the traits difference. There's the trait difference. Now, what's your argument against that?
This is the trait you're naming. So cannot create a code of conduct. Is that the trait? For
starters, it's a trait that to start this process. I'm willing to entertain what your presupposition, right? Yeah, your loaded question. I've entertained it. The animals that you're referring to, that you're comparing to man, woman, or child, right? Yeah, doesn't have a code of conduct. Doesn't have a code of conduct. You are, because you're saying, so if a man, a woman, or child doesn't have a code of conduct, is it justified to eat them? Right. So, but the code of conduct is written for man, woman, and child before they are born. Your question makes no coherent sense.
I said if.
Yeah, if means
if a child had no code of conduct.
If is a conditional precedent, which means other factors must be relevant for this conditional precedent to be answered or be queried, right? Yeah, and the code of conduct for man, woman, and child is in place before they're born. I can reference it. Right, yeah?
Well, we have
do deers, but you mentioned deers. Do deers have a code of conduct for all the deers that are born within their species and community that I can go and reference?
Well, they technically do, but even let's say that they didn't. Let's say that they don't. That's fine. You can.
But let's look at I want to look at the technical one. What's the technical one?
Right. This is.
I want to look at the technical one. You said they technically do. So what's this technical code of conduct that deers have?
Well, animals can communicate with each other, and they have little rules and stuff. And they.
I'm not saying they don't.
Right.
I'm saying what's the code of conduct that they have that I can decipher that says between themselves, like they can't kill each other and they can't eat each other and they don't want to be hunted. They got rights and they don't want to be hunted by mankind or something like that. Where can I decipher this information from any other of the animal kingdom that I belong to?
I'm just going to grant that as true. Okay, that's fine. You can say
that's one.
Right,
so that's one
okay.
trait.
So you've got a list of traits. I can write these down. Okay, so one, cannot create a code of conduct. What's your next trait?
Well, you require more than that.
No, it's up to you.
Okay.
I'm asking you, what is it that's true of animals that, if true of a child, would justify slitting that child's throat for a burger?
Yeah.
Now, this is your moral code we're going with here. You can name as many or as few traits.
But that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me. The argument should be, as far as I'm concerned, your question should be, what's true of a child, right? Yeah, or man or woman, that isn't true of an animal that allows you to eat the animal? Well, they're not my own kind, for one, and we have a code of conduct and laws I adhere to. I think are righteous. Although I acknowledge that cannibalism is a trait of mankind and even legally protected in some areas of the world. Right? Yeah, there are tribes out there that practice cannibalism, and they are legally within their tribe allowed to do so.
But the point is, we're taking the traits about humans that you value that make it, or we're taking the traits about animals that you think it makes it okay to actually do these things to them, and we're just seeing if that would hold up if it was a child.
But that makes no sense.
Why would you?
Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?
To see to probe into, to investigate your moral system.
Right.
Just
as any. All right. Okay. Here's another trait. Has any animal on this earth eaten man, woman, or child ever? Taken bites out of them and eaten them ever? If so,
yeah,
that's fair game. Then we can hunt any animal on earth.
Well, that would be a category error, because the animals that you eat tend not to do that.
It doesn't matter. What do you mean category? What's the category error? Life on Earth.
Dude, sheep and cows do not eat humans, so you can't list that. And yet you're saying it's justified to kill them because they eat humans.
No, of course. If everything man has done, will do, and will continue to do is perfectly justified. You keep using this word justified.
Then what's the point in this debate then? Because if you just think anything humans do is justified, then how can I convince you of anything?
Yeah, but I didn't say righteous. Yeah, and there's a difference between justified and righteous. I just think you're using the wrong word.
Let's use that word righteous then, because right, okay. Let's go. Let's see. All right, let's go right. This is solely from your own moral framework. Okay, right. What is it that's true of animals that, if true of a child, would make it righteous to slit that child's throat and eat them?
Nothing. There's nothing, as far as I'm concerned, would justify slitting a child's throat and eating it for whatever reason.
Then that should be your position with animals, because if you don't even believe that there's certain traits, certain things that make it righteous to.
No. If you're unable to intellectually decipher the distinction between man, whatever we are, and the rest of nature,
you're misunderstanding what nature is.
No.
You can ask this with me and plants if you want. You could literally ask me, George. You can take two completely different beings that have completely different moral value in my framework. You can say to me, George, what is it that's true of plants that, if true of animals, would make it justified to drop them into a saucepan and boil them, which is what I do to vegetables? And I would be able to name the trait.
Yeah, but you can't.
No, I can.
How? Go on, then name it.
Yeah, sure. If animals lacked a brain, a central nervous system, couldn't feel pain, weren't self-conscious, yeah, it'd be fine to boil them.
Right, but plants have been proven to communicate with one another. So you don't need a brain and nervous system.
Well, they only communicate with each other in the same way that like a computer communicates with another computer.
No. Plants of the same species have been known and it's been proven scientifically that they share resources. But plants of opposite genetic disparities, actually compete for resources. So no, you're wrong. And when, say, one tree is on fire, it's been known to, for example, send off frequencies of danger and alert into its brothers and sisters in its vicinity. What you're saying is categorically been demonstrably proven wrong by scientific endeavor. Yes, it has. I'll link you to the studies.
Yeah, they're paranormal studies.
No.
the idea that plants actually have any semblance of sentience or
I never said that. I said they communicate with one another.
Yeah, and I agree. The same way as a computer communicates.
Yeah, but like,
or AI communicates with you, but it's not when you type something into ChatGPT. ChatGPT's not feeling anything.
Sentience isn't an overwhelming factor for me. I've told you, if on a desert island and I was starving, I'd eat a dead man, woman, or child. It wouldn't make no difference to me, right? Yeah, starvation. Once starvation kicks in, I know what will happen. And it was the same with you. Once, if me and you were on a desert island and someone had died, once starvation kicks in and that leg is over a Spitfire and cooking, you're eating it. I don't care about your moral standpoint. But you're going to eat it.
Yeah, that isn't the society we're living in now, though, right? So I can choose.
I don't live in a society. Society is a concept of the mind. No, I don't. I live in this body. You see this body you see here now on cam? I live within the confines of my own skin. Society is a concept, a figment of the imagination. There's no such thing. There's a distinct difference between claims of value and claims of fact. And society is a claim of value that cannot derive from any fact. Right, yeah. So, like, I don't belong to any society. I'm an individual. I don't work for any meat factories. I'm not a voter. I didn't grant them permission to kill all these chickens and farms in the first place. Right, yeah. And right, yeah. Like, I acknowledge that all this scientific computer devices I've got here right now, right, yeah. Loads of animals were suffered and abused because of it. There's no way cobalt can be mined without breaking donkeys' backs and little children being sent down mines for it and stuff like that, right? Yeah. So all of these devices in my household, every time I type and let the scientific community know that I'm using them, it makes them go and create more, and we'll go and abuse more animals and abuse more people in the process of doing it. It's a vicious circle. But sentience isn't the overriding factor here. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, what can you tell me about animals that's so special about them that I shouldn't eat them when they're eating each other?
Yeah. So there's humans. I mean, you eat animals. Does that mean it's okay for someone to kill and eat you?
Obviously, right? Yeah. If they're able to do it, how can it be otherwise? You tell me what's so special about animals, right? Yeah.
Okay, so you would agree with the UK law changing tomorrow that it would be okay to kill you to eat you?
Right. There's a difference between agreeing with something and accepting it as a factor of life. Right. What I'm asking you a question. You're a vegan. What's so special about animals, right? Yeah. That makes man shouldn't be eating them. What makes animals so special that man shouldn't be eating them when they are eating each other?
Yeah. Well, that's the say. I could just ask you what's so special about you that means it shouldn't be okay to murder you when you eat animals.
Right, and my answer to that is, right, yeah, me hunting a deer is no different to a lion hunting a deer.
Oh, so it's okay to kill you then?
If you think it's okay to kill me, that's fine. But it's okay for other people to think that wasn't okay, to come and hunt you down and hold you accountable for that. That's fine as well.
But let's try and actually. I'm getting very, very confused by your moral system, because one second you'll just say something like, "No, I don't agree with this," and then the next second you'll just be like, "Yeah, no, this happens, so it's okay." And I
never said it's okay. You've missed. So if you're going to quote me precisely or not at all.
All right, I'm going to quote you very precisely. Let's go with this list of traits that you're naming. Okay, I'm going to write. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to write them down so we can
name a list of traits with any animal that I would eat, for example, that tells me what I shouldn't eat it. What is it? What's so special about these animals?
Yeah, we're going to do that by applying them to a child and seeing if those traits...
just tell me what's special about the animal. Why use anything else? If the animal was truly special, you wouldn't need to compare it to anything else. Just use
they are special in my... No. Hold on. I see it as morally wrong to kill and eat animals. Okay, you do not.
You don't. But you don't. No, you don't, because you're using a device right now that abused and killed animals. And
that's Nirvana fallacy.
It's not. You're using a device right now. Right? You agree not to have any more children, so they don't become vegan, so they don't become carnists or whatever, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But you're telling the scientific community now to go and create more of these devices, more of these things, right? Yeah. And animals and people will be abused in the process.
Yeah, but this isn't a scrutiny you put anyone else under for having any kind of view. You wouldn't say to someone who's against kids being abused, "Oh, you buy a smartphone."
I would if they give their child under the age of 16 or under the age of consent a smartphone. Absolutely.
No, that they're owning one themselves and they're against child abuse. Yet you're not applying. This is the scrutiny that vegans get. We get scrutinized for.
I would. You're saying I wouldn't, but I would.
Okay. So if someone just says I'm against Madeleine McCann being kidnapped and raped and murdered, you would say to them, "Well, you have a smartphone."
No, because we're not on about the same thing, are we? Clearly, yeah, like I understand, but in order to make a smartphone, you don't need to kidnap a child like McCann from a family, blah, blah, blah. The children that are being sent down in these mines to mine cobalt, right, yeah, are being sent down by their family members and brothers and sisters and whatnot. And the donkeys that are having their bracts broken and their hooves never clipped and whatnot and abused and whatnot to carry this minerals to get to your smartphones and stuff like that. It's not the same argument as committing a crime upon someone. The people that are doing it in these countries, are doing it legally within their own frameworks. However, that's not justified from the legal system me and you are engaging in right now.
Yeah, so if you see that as incomparable, and you wouldn't ask someone who's against the kidnap of Madeleine McCann, "Oh, but do you have a smartphone?" Then you can't say to a vegan,
"But no children no children, as far as I'm concerned, were kidnapped from their parents without their consent in order to make your smartphone. So it's a false comparison, right? Yeah, like if you send your children down in mines, and or the government sending your children down in mines, right? Yeah, to mine cobalt, and you're like, I don't like that on your smartphone. I'd be like, well, why have you got a smartphone then when you're like, you're telling them to go and do more of it, right? Yeah, so you're contradicting yourself in that regards. And I'm saying you as a vegan on your smartphone or whatever device you're on now, right? Yeah, are contradicting yourself. You're more than willing to use device. The scientific community as a whole, right? Yeah, abuses over 200 million
using
animals.
these devices, so you can't scrutinize me.
But I eat animals. I'm not claiming.
No, but you're
to be
against
morally
the abuse
superior.
of children.
But
You're
I'm
against
not,
the abuse
I'm not
of children.
Claiming. Yeah, I know. I agree. I'm against the abuse of children, right? Yeah. And I, as a parent, would never send a child down to a cobalt mine either. I am disgusted with these products myself. Absolutely. I hate myself for it. Yeah.
Okay, right.
I hate myself for using these products. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Right, let's get back to let's try and finalize this in a nice linear fashion and without gish galloping all over the place, because we seem to have meandered all over the place with this. So I want you to name the list of traits true of animals that, if true of a child, would justify killing that child. And the reason there has to be a trait is because the trait means that if we apply that to a being, that makes it okay to kill them in your worldview. In this case, a chicken, a cow, a pig. You think there's a certain number of things about chickens, cows, and pigs that makes it okay to kill them, correct?
It's a legality, my friend.
Okay, that's another trait you want to mention? If the legality, yeah.
Well, you're speaking in English legal presumptive. You're communicating in MENA. You're asking me the question in a legal presumptive fiction, a language that is a legislative language, right? Yeah, in order to conduct law and between one man and another, so it doesn't lead to violence, right? So you're speaking to me in a legal language called English presumptive fiction. Right, so yeah, the animals, right, yeah, are legally protected up to a point, and then they're not. So that's another trait. But
okay,
you obviously have to adhere to this because you're using the English language, which abuses and punishes these animals or which makes these animals suffer, right? Yeah, legally under the English tongue. So just by it's a choice to use the English language to communicate in. No one's forcing you to do it. There's no gun to your head right now, and you're using a language that permits the suffering or harm to these animals to be used for however mankind wishes to use them, as is right now. So
that's the second trait. Do you have any more traits true of animals that, if true of a human, would make it justified to kill the child?
Why don't you reverse it? No, okay. I've given you two, and I want to reverse the equation. What's true?
Well, hold on. We haven't finalized it yet. Because you can't just ask me a question back when we haven't finalized the trait stack yet, and just.
But what more do you need?
Okay, that's fine. All right, that's fine.
Wow, man! I've just watched you with an interview or a debate with that other vegan woman and natalist woman, and you were really respectful, man. And let her say whenever she interrupted you, be like, "Oh, sorry." Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But with me, you're quite happy to shout me down. I think that I'm saying stuff you don't like hearing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's
No, I'm
it's
just
forcing
trying.
you forcing you to shout over me like a petulant child. I've just
No. You're
I've
shouting
just
as well.
I've just educated you that the English language that you're speaking to me in is legal presumptive fiction that gives
Okay.
these animals their rights,
When I was in the debate,
doesn't grant them their rights.
when
The
I was
English,
in the debate with Emily, when I asked a question, did she just start gish galloping and wriggling all over the place?
yeah,
And red herring and just fly and just like.
I thought so.
All right, fair enough.
And if that's what you think I'm doing, that's fine. I thought I just again like every time I try and tell you this, you keep interrupting and saying I'm gish galloping. You have asked me a question in an English language, right? Yeah, like a code of conduct again, a form of communication that grants these animals that you supposedly care about their rights or not. Right, yeah. So every time you're using this language, like using science, is no differently to me buying a chicken. Me purchasing a chicken is supply and demand, right? Right, according to you vegans. I mean, you using the English language is supply and demand because the English language, right, yeah, is formulating the law that allows these chickens and these cows to be butchered in slaughterhouses in the first place. So every time you use the English tongue and English language, you're enabling slaughterhouses and the like, right? Yeah, to operate in a realm of legal certainty.
Right. Anyway, do you have so those are the two traits that you're naming? Cannot create a code of conduct and that it's legal to do so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So if there was a child who could not create a code of conduct and it was legal to murder this child, you'd be okay with killing this child and eating them for a burger.
It depends. If there was no laws of man, no code of conduct on earth, it depends. Like this wouldn't even be a conversation. There'd be no intelligence about it. So yeah, I'd probably eat whatever was in front of me, however, whenever I felt like it. There'd be no thought or consciousness to it. It would just be, I've got this feeling. That's it. It wouldn't. There'd be no thought behind it. Do you understand? So yes.
But in your own moral system now, let's say. Like, let's say, for example, you were to go to a lawless island, like just a place like maybe like a jungle society that didn't have like a country or a law. They didn't have like a code of conduct, and it was technically legal to kill these children. And in your situation now, so let's just say you're flying over there with a helicopter. Let's just say you're on holiday, just flying over the Amazon or something. Would you deem it morally acceptable by your own standard now? You've got other options to eat. This is your own situation now to just shoot this child below you in the jungle and just eat them.
Right. I think why do you keep rephrasing the same question? If there's no thought process behind it, and I don't care, and there's no legal framework in place, and there's no protections between anyone else, and there is no technical legalities, there's no code of conduct, but technically it's legal, right? You're contradicting yourself in your own questioning, right? Yeah.
No. I'm just asking for your. I'm just asking if you would think that's okay. Those are the traits you named. So I've just given you a scenario. I'm asking you if it's okay.
What do you mean whether I think it's okay? Right. What you're trying to say is like, if I lifted myself out of this moral framework, because I'm not in this moral framework, and put myself in a condition where the English language was never known to me, and this moral conditioning was never known to me, would I eat whatever I fucking felt like it whenever I felt like it? Yeah, absolutely. So what? Who cares? Like, yeah, there'd be no thought behind it. So
you would consider it. I'm asking if you'd consider it justified now from your own position now.
Right now, in the English tongue with intelligence, right? Yeah, no, because every man, woman, and child has a code of conduct applied to it when we are engaging in the intellectual realm of the English language. It's a legal language, right? Yeah, man, woman, and child have legal rights and freedoms, right? Yeah, that are bestowed upon them when they are born, right?
Yeah, and in this society that I've listed, they don't.
And animals do to a certain point in the English language, in the English tongue, right? Yeah, and if you,
Okay.
and if you cared more about these animals, right? Yeah, If you cared more about these animals than mankind, for example, you'd stop using the English tongue that allows these animals to be put in the slaughterhouses in the first place.
That's
There's
an
no
insane reach, but okay.
How is it an
I'll
insane
speak to you in
reach?
Klingon. Let's do the rest of this fucking debate in Klingon.
No, you have to speak to me in a language that doesn't eat meat. Klingons eat meat.
Konnichiwa.
Japanese eat meat.
Ah, you got me. Very well done.
You know what I mean? Yeah. If you can't speak to me in a legal language, right? Yeah, that doesn't eat meat products on this earth or abuses animals in any which way, shape, or form, then you are fulfilling yourself and basking in, submerged in, dwelling in, swimming in, right? Yeah, the very essence that abuses these animals in the first place. You're no one to be pointing fingers and judge. The only veganism is a diet, right? Yeah, that derives from Satanism.
But then you can't hold on. Then you can't have a position on anything because you're using the English language, so you can't disagree with child porn.
No, it's only porn to the paedophile. They're indecent criminal.
I don't care about this. I don't care about the semantics of it.
Evidently,
I'm fed up of you applying this logic only to me as a vegan, and then you're just letting paedophiles off the hook and all this stuff. Because
how did you get to that insane logical leap? How did you get to that insane illogical?
Or maybe should I say, or you're not? Wait, no. Let me rephrase
I apply this to everybody on Earth. What are you on about? What did
you're
under
saying
the English
that
tongue?
I know
Under the
you're
English
saying
tongue,
that I have no right to judge anyone else because I use the English language. Then who does?
Right. Can you use a language now that isn't partaking in the abusement or in abusing animals in any which way, shape, or form? Are you able to do that?
I can't think of one. No, there's every.
So you are then, by your own admission, partaking in the abusing of animals by using the English language.
That is an insane reach. That's like saying, are you partaking in the molestation of children by speaking English?
Why? Is it a crime? Is it a crime to molest children in the English language?
Can you name a society that doesn't molest children?
Is it a crime? Yes. Is it a crime in the English? The English. Let me ask you.
The English don't molest children.
Right? Can I? Not legally. No. Is it a crime to molest a child under the age of consent? Under the age of consent in the English tongue, in the English law? Yes or no?
Yes, of course it is.
Right. Stop there then. So how did you get to that illogical leap?
How are you getting to it, dude?
Right, let me explain it to you then. You keep speaking over me and shouting over me like a petulant child, like you didn't do with that other pregnant lady, right? Listen, the English language, right, yeah, is legal presumptive fiction, right, yeah? It's a fiction to represent the facts and or concepts of mankind and the law, what you can and cannot do. If you break the law, or these other people will come and hunt you down and incarcerate you and take your freedoms and liberties away from you, whether you like it or whether I like it or not. There are people that dedicate their lives, willing to sacrifice their lives on this earth to uphold the law. Right. And in law, let me finish. In law, it's not legal in the English tongue to molest children, but it is legal to eat animals. So if you use the English language where it is legal to eat animals in the English tongue, you are partaking in those animals being abused and eaten. Whereas children being abused is a crime in the English language.
Oh, okay. So if the UK government legalized pedophilia tomorrow,
illogical fucking leap, didn't you?
Oh, really?
You couldn't shut your fucking mouth.
Oh, really? So if the UK government legalized pedophilia tomorrow, you would be participating in child abuse by speaking English.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's a consistent position, I guess. Right, now let's get back to the name the trait. So you're flying over the Amazon.
Especially if they use the English law to do it, yes. The English law governs the UK Parliament, British law, right, yeah? So yes, any law created in the English tongue that permitted people to rape children, right, yeah, then obviously me using English is partaking in that fulfillment, absolutely, and I'd be disgusted.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate your consistency there. Right, so let's get back. You're flying over the Amazon and there's a child below you. They live in a lawless society. It's fully legal to shoot this child.
Then it's not lawless, is it? You just contradicted yourself.
No, it's it's legal in the sense that there's no law against it. It's not against the law to shoot and kill this child. No country will prosecute you for it. Is it okay
everything
now
on
in your
earth.
worldview? Hold on. Can you just answer? Is it okay in your worldview to shoot the child? Yes or no? Please just say yes or no.
No, it's not okay now in my worldview. Now, no.
Okay, so then that's going to be a formal contradiction, right? So
no, it's not. It's not a formal contradiction.
So
what
name
the animal, right? Name the animal. Deer. You named the deer, and then you went from child of man, whatever we are, right? Yeah, we are not deer. Whatever we are, mankind is not a deer. There's no contradiction.
Said it is and is not okay to shoot a being for a burger who cannot create a code of conduct, and that it's legal to do so. That's your current position.
If the code of conduct is made for them.
Is that another trait that you okay? Let's add that to the trait set that has no code of conduct created for them.
If deers had a code of conduct that they could share with us, right? Yeah, then they wouldn't need you sticking up for them, would they? They'd already have their own laws, right? Yeah, they don't need some pathetic dude on a device that abused loads of animals and children.
Yeah, well, sure, yeah, that's why I'm an animal rights activist, because I'm trying to attain them legal rights. Right, okay, we're just going to slightly amend then the trait stack, so based on what you know. Okay, so you're flying over the Amazon, and this kid below you has no
but there's
code
no
of
contradiction.
Conduct. Well, we're going to find out if there is.
I already know there isn't.
They have no code of conduct created for them, and it is not against the law for you to shoot them in the head with a sniper rifle. Now, is it okay for you? Is it okay under your worldview now to do that?
As far as I'm concerned, if under my worldview right now, if it's not prohibited by law, then it's perfectly legal and lawful. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know it'd be legal and lawful. I'm asking you if it'd be okay. There's laws that we don't agree with, and there's like legality is not doesn't obviously.
You've answered your own question. You've said it's okay. But your question incorporates its own answer.
Because I don't give a shit about the law. That's not my trait. It is legal to massacre animals. I don't agree with it.
Yeah, but you're using the English language right now. So you've contradicted yourself. You're using a legal language called English legal presumptive fiction.
No, I'm using it as a form of communication.
Yes, and it comes with rules and conditions.
Okay, and I don't agree with many things that happen in Arab societies, but if I had to learn Arabic to speak with an Arab about animal exploitation, I would do that.
That's not my issue, is it? It's none of my.
You're an English speaker,
right?
So I'm speaking to you in a language that you understand.
And
so
under
now
under the English tongue and law, right? Yeah. But the people who grant permits to the slaughterhouses and farms, right? Yeah, it's got nothing to do with me. My hands are clean. But if they want to kill an animal, right? Yeah, and it's for sale somewhere, and it's just going to go to rot and waste if it's not eaten, then I'll eat it. Why should that animal die in vain? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If for as long as voters are killing these animals, I will eat them. And when all that ceases, I don't mind hunting my own animal to kill it and eat it if needs be.
I think we're going away now from the actual seeing if you have a consistent position. But if that's another trait you're naming, but like it's a society.
Again, I didn't come here to represent any sort of consistent positions or anything like that. I came here to debate a vegan to see if they can challenge any of my points. Does your wife vote? Do your parents vote? Does anyone you know vote?
I've come here to see if you have a consistent position on animal rights, and as far as I'm concerned, you don't.
Of course I don't. Animals have the rights that mankind give to them and grant to them, because if they were able to assert them themselves, this wouldn't be a conversation, would it?
Yeah, no.
The only rights animals have are the ones mankind grants to them, and I haven't given any animal any rights whatsoever.
Yeah, and we're trying to see if that's societally a flawed position or not. My current take is that we live in a fucked up system that inconsistently grants rights to humans but not to animals. So my job as an animal rights activist is to try and change that. I'm trying here to persuade you that you either have an inconsistent position or okay.
No,
so
because
you believe you have a consistent position in between killing children and animals?
Yes, because there's a distinct difference between rights and freedoms. You have the freedom to murder and kill whoever you want right now. Okay. Your own wife, for example, right? Yeah, that doesn't mean you have the right to, But you are capable of. Everyone's capable of doing anything. You have the freedom to do it.
We're trying to see if it's
let's
morally acceptable.
let's just say you came home and you found your wife molesting your 2-year-old son. Do you have a right to kill her? Do you have the freedom to kill her in protecting and defending that child?
Okay,
Yes, you do.
I'm not going to entertain gish gallops anymore.
All right.
We're going to
But what I'm saying is, in the law of mankind, there are situations where it's perfectly conceivable where mankind can kill another man in defense.
Yeah, again, I'm not here to talk about self-defense in UK law. That's not my interest here in discussing this today.
Right then, okay.
So let's
what rights do animals have? Do you think animals have rights? Do you think animals have rights?
We're trying to grant animals rights. Yes.
Why? I don't claim rights
Because,
to the best of my ability.
I'll tell you why.
Because
I'll tell you why. Because there's no morally relevant trait difference between humans and animals that justifies granting right to one and not the other. Now we're going to see if you hold that position. Okay, there is. Okay, tell me what those morally relevant trait differences are, and I'll write them down.
Name one other animal that's granted rights upon another animal.
Is that a trait? Hasn't.
Yes, of course it is.
Cannot grant.
Is it a trait?
Okay, cool. All right. Cannot grant rights. That's the third one I'm adding to the trait stack. Do you have any more?
Can it grant rights? Yes. Can it grant rights to other animals? Can whatever animal you want rights for grant rights to other animals itself?
Okay. All right. So let's go with this. Okay. So we see a child. You see a child in the Amazon. They have no code of conduct created for them. It will not be against the law for you to shoot them and eat them. And this child cannot grant rights to other humans or animals. It's okay to shoot them by your logic.
It's perfect. Everyone's perfectly free to shoot them. Yes, by my logic.
You would be okay with the child being. You would see it morally acceptable to shoot and eat the child.
Not in my position. No.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Then that's not an answer to the question. I'm asking.
It is.
Well,
no. There's a difference
then
between.
No.
There's a difference between people having the freedom to do it, right? Yeah, and me being okay with it. Right, yeah, me being okay with it is secondary to people having the freedom to do it. Me being okay with it is irrelevant. It's none of my business.
Would you find it morally acceptable for someone to shoot the child and eat them? You can answer this consistently. Okay. Never. Okay, then that's an inconsistent position.
It's not, because the child I'm talking about, right? Yeah, isn't the animal that you're talking about.
Yeah,
right.
And
they are two distinct, separate living beings.
Yeah, and you've named 3 things about animals that you say makes it okay to kill these animals that, if applied to a human, would be okay to kill that human.
And you haven't.
Those 3 things has no code of conduct created for them. It's not against the law to kill them, and cannot grant rights to other animals. Now, if there is a child in the jungle who has no code of conduct created for them, it's legal. It's not against the law to kill them, and this child cannot grant rights to other humans or animals. Would it be morally acceptable in your worldview to kill that child for a burger?
My worldview now.
Yes.
Obviously not, because you're attempting, right? Yeah, to put my consciousness now with the English language and intelligence into a situation that doesn't correlate to my standing now. So for me to be in that situation, right? Yeah, I'd have to forget everything I know now, everything I've ever learned, and be in that situation where that circumstance applies to me in some which way, shape or mind, where I don't have the foresight and knowledge of the English language, customs and traditions that I've grew up in right now, that have been afforded to me. So, and the child you're talking about isn't a deer, right? It's not a deer.
But we're trying to see.
Right. So
the question I asked you is.
What you're asking me is something that's already going on. There are tribes in the jungle right now that kill children and eat them within their own legal framework. Am I okay with that? No, it's none of my business, right? Yeah, what they do is what they do. However, I wouldn't see that as righteous, right?
Yeah, we're trying to find out why not, because you named these traits about animals.
Because there are okay. Because let me answer you then. Because there are other things to eat. That's why.
Oh, okay. So that's already true of animals. So that's fine. There's other things to eat. You can be vegan.
Yeah, but you haven't answered. You haven't answered the discrepancy. You haven't shifted anything. The deer's still a deer, and the child is still the child.
But we're now applying those deer-like traits to the child to see if
Why?
it holds up. Because that's the idea of name the trait, to see if you have a consistent position.
Yeah, but it doesn't. The conclusion doesn't amount to anything.
It amounts to the idea that maybe the traits that you're applying to deer to make it okay to kill them aren't actually good arguments to kill the deer.
Of course they are.
Oh, so then if we apply those traits to a child, it'd be okay to kill them then?
What do you mean? Okay.
By your logic, you said
these
traits. You think these traits are actually good, are valuable traits. You think these traits hold moral weight about deers, that they have no code of conduct created them, that it's legal to kill them, that they can't write rights to others.
But a deer isn't a child. You're comparing.
I know. So now we're naming the traits. So now we're taking those traits that you've said is true about deers that makes it okay to kill them. We're applying them to a child to actually see if your moral position holds up.
Yeah, but in order for you to do so, right? Yeah, you have to put this child in these certain conditions that don't exist, that are non-relevant to the conclusion. Well, even if I was to accept your argument, right? Yeah, the conclusion is deers are not children, and the circumstances that you've alluded to do not exist. And if they do, it's none of my business or standing to have an impact on it. It's going to happen whether I care about it or not. And it does happen whether I care about it or not. So your point is irrelevant.
No, it's
absolutely
not irrelevant.
Of course it is.
Okay.
The deer is still a deer, and the child is still a child, and the conditions that you've put into this logical framework do not exist.
Actually, technically, with the 3 traits you've named, they are actually quite realistic and could exist. But let's say that let's say you named could fly or something like that. It doesn't matter.
But a deer will never be a child. Listen, a deer will never be.
The idea of a hypothetical is to test consistency.
I know what the idea of a hypothetical is. I'm a metaphysician.
Well, answer it then.
You don't seem to be at grips, got the grasp of logic. You're breaking down fundamentally in errors that I'm trying to point out to you. A deer is not a child. I understand your comparison. I understand your logical trap, but the conclusion doesn't amount to anything, because your ifs are conditional precedents where you're having to place this hypothetical child in order to trap me in this logical conundrum right here, will not amount to anything because they do not exist in reality. The deer and the child, right, yeah, have their rights given to them already in the English tongue as is. You may want to change and alter
this child wouldn't. This child wouldn't
in your scenario, in your hypothetical.
It's your scenario,
I'm telling you, your hypothetical conclusion, stop interrupting me, doesn't exist in the English language, because in the
I don't give a shit if it doesn't exist.
In the English language, that child is protected by laws and legalities, right? Yeah.
So there is no laws in the jungle,
right? So in the jungle, there's no English language. So,
no,
I can't give you the answer. The answer is beyond the English language to give you. You have to give me a hypothetical that can be answered in correlation with the English language in order for me to remain logically consistent, right? Yeah, and adhere to it. Otherwise, I can't answer an illogical equation without seeming contradictory. Yeah, look, you've given me a hypothetical that will not exist in reality. Therefore, I'm going to contradict myself when answering it, because you don't accept that the English tongue already caters for the conundrum you're mentioning. That's why you have to make the hypothetical where the English tongue is being applied to this hypothetical where it's not really being applied. You're asking me to sit on a throne and apply my consciousness to a scenario that's intellectually above it. Well, of course, that's fine. But however, the throne I'm sat on already gives the animals its rights. That you're telling me I'm on a throne that can judge this other scenario in the same way. But the throne that I'm sat on is already judging the animals that you want to have rights, and has given them. To a certain degree, they have rights. Like the slaughterhouses and the farms have to treat their animals to a certain degree or be held accountable by law. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, might not agree with that.
We're going on another tangent here, but look, if you're not,
it's only a tangent because you can't answer the argument. You can't defeat the argument.
You can't name the trait.
I can.
Let's say you name it then. After an hour and 15 minutes, he's going to name it, everyone.
I've named 3. And the point is,
I asked it. And so
Your
it
logical
results in a form. So you
your logic-
acknowledge it's a
you keep
formal
interrupting
contradiction
me.
then.
Huh?
You acknowledge you've committed a formal contradiction then, because you named 3 traits and then you said it wouldn't be okay to shoot the child.
It's not a contradiction because the deer is not a child.
Oh my God! Then you haven't understood the question. Look,
I have.
I don't think we're going to get anywhere with this, man. But look, I appreciate you reaching out for the debate, and it was fun. I think it was. I think it will be an entertaining listen for our audiences. And honestly, man, I wish you a good rest of the day. And it was a fun chat anyway, man. So
It was
thanks for
fun,
coming.
and I'd like to say, with all the years, 20 years I've been debating online, this is yet another debate with a vegan that I've demolished effortlessly. You can't answer a simple.
All right, mate. Well, we'll let my audience decide that.
Well, no, I'm deciding it for you and myself.
No.
If you had anything to teach me, and I would have learnt it. I'm walking
Okay.
away from this engagement, and I don't feel satisfied. I feel like I just effortlessly demolished another vegan, right? Yeah,
I got you to
a killer diet. A vegan that promotes a killer diet that can't answer his way out of any hypothetical I give you, and you're giving me hypotheticals where you're comparing deers to children.
All right. Well, thank you for logically contradicting yourself and naming 3 traits that you would not believe that it would be justified in the end to kill a being who had those traits.
You're wrong. Look, when you listen to this back, right? Yeah, you'll hear that I say it was perfectly justified, just not righteous.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, man, for coming on, and I'll keep listening to the rest of your debates and stuff.
There's a difference between justified and righteous, and I did highlight that, and you never actually counteracted it once. So yeah, you got demolished, mate. So thanks for your time, George.
Yep, thanks for your time, mate, and catch you later, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. I wish you all the best.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Take care.